Are you constantly putting yourself down? Perhaps you do it because you want to save yourself the embarrassment of other people noticing that maybe you gained weight over the summer, maybe you've having a bad hair day, maybe you've got a cold sore. And when people point it out, it makes you feel really insecure and embarrassed, which you already are anyway. So you just decide you're going to bring it up and you're going to start putting yourself down and teaching people how to treat you. And that's just all a lot easier because then you feel like you're in control. Or are you just over it and you just want to stop feeling so rubbish about yourself? Well, maybe this is the right episode for you, because today's episode is You're Not Born Worthless, but you act like it. Here's why. And again, these are always just my opinions or my observations, probably. No, tell you what, I never give opinions. I try not to. I'm doing it a little bit more than I should recently, but that's another thing entirely. I offer perspective changes on just a different way to look at the same thing, because we are not time travelers. We can't go back in time and change what's happened, but maybe we can change the way you look at it. And there's that saying, isn't there? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I quite like that. I can't remember who said it though, so can't give the credit, unfortunately. But today we're talking about self-worth. We're talking about the value that you put on yourself. See, a lot of people think self-worth is about confidence, or if you have too much confidence, arrogance. Actually, self-worth is really quite a simple concept. It is the value that you place upon yourself, not what other people place on you or external things place on you. The value that you have about yourself, whether you think you're intelligent or smart, or whether you think you're attractive, or whether you think you're strong or weak, or whatever it is that you think about yourself. It's that value that you place in yourself. And a lot of the time, I think that sense of value comes from our sort of early experiences in our childhood, that they are sort of the way that when we are kids between, say the age of 1 and 7, the way that we try to make meaning out of the world, the way that we try to understand things so that we can feel safe in our surroundings and safe with the people that are in our environments. So we start to create little stories about what things mean and what they don't mean, so that we can start to understand ourselves a little bit better. And part of that is attached to our own self-value. One of the ways that that's done is if you take an experience like, I don't know, you go to school and you do really well at a certain test or a certain sport. Say you go to school and you do really, really good in the sport, and you come home and you tell your mum and dad, hey, mum, dad, I did really well in the sport today. I scored 3 goals and I did this, and everyone cheered, and your parents really make a fuss of you. They tell you, wow, that's amazing. You're incredible. That's really great. And then they make you a special dinner, or they go out and they buy you something nice just to show how much they think you're amazing. In that experience, you end up attaching value to the praise. So it's not actually the thing that you're capable of, or, you know, the fact that you've done really well in sports and that you actually value that trait of achievement or anything like that. And you start to go, oh, yeah. You know, I like it when I achieve things. It makes me feel good. That's what I attach my value to in some form. You actually start to attach your value to external praise. You actually start to go, hey, if I do this or I do that, then other people tell me how good I am. And I like that feeling. So sometimes it's really important to realize that you have to gain value, or it's more beneficial for you to gain value from understanding the things that you like. Like, for example, when you have, I don't know, a certain chocolate bar, and you look at the chocolate bar and you like the packaging, the colours on the packaging, you like the way it feels, and then you open it and you eat it and you love the taste of it and the texture of it. You're then starting to really understand that you value that thing. I don't know, it's a chocolate bar, but it's a good example, right? You're starting to realize that you are the one that values that. You're making those decisions. All of your senses are coming together to say, yeah, this is right for you. Just like when you meet people. When you meet people, I don't know, a club, or you do a course, or you're out with your friends and you run into somebody and you start to get those senses that this person smells nice, or this person looks nice, or you like how that person looks at you, or you love the conversation and you feel excited. All of that is really, really good for you to understand and to measure yourself against. It's a way sort of that we look at the world and we get these signals and they bounce back to us and they tell us how we feel about things. And it's really about self-worth. It's about self-trust. It's about trusting your instincts. It's about knowing that you are worth it, not needing somebody else to tell you or something else to tell you. That low self-worth, that can be a problem. Why can it be a problem? Well, it can be a problem because it affects our decisions. We make bad decisions if we don't think we're good enough. We don't take opportunities. We miss out on things. Perhaps it affects our relationships. Perhaps you're always putting yourself down, and actually after a little while you convince other people of that too. So like I said, you teach people how to treat you. If you go around telling people that you're not worth anything, then people will start to treat you that way. And you miss out on opportunities. Like I say, you got to look at yourself like a brand in a way. Like, you're always selling yourself. You're always putting yourself out there. You're always telling people, hey, this is who I am. This is how you treat me. Here's my values. Here's my boundaries. This is really important because people start to learn who you are and how to be around you. Those stories that we tell ourselves either build us up or break us down when it comes to our self-worth. Those little narratives that we have in the back of our mind, the ones that we created when we were children. When's the last time we sort of challenged them? Because those little narratives that we have about ourselves that either build us up or break us down, they are our self-worth, and they start to become connected to the way that we talk to ourselves in our heads and the things that we believe are true about ourselves. And here's the thing I want you to know, right? We all have thoughts every day, all of us. But here's the thing. Thoughts are not facts. Just because you think something, it doesn't make it true. And the thing about facts is facts are unchangeable most of the time. Funny enough, some facts do change, which is strange. But by and large, facts are unchangeable. They're always the same. Beliefs, they change. The things that we believe are not based in fact. They're not facts. They are beliefs. They are beliefs that we have, that we form because we either like them and we like that idea and we perhaps want to believe that this is the way things are because it offers us comfort or safety, or they're things that we value. They're things that we think, yeah, that's how I look at the world and that makes me feel a certain way. So that self-talk that we have in our head, whether it be positive or negative, helpful or unhelpful, that either breaks us down or builds us up. So what we have to become good at is challenging that self-talk. If it's not helping us, and here's the thing, you might struggle to say something's positive or negative because you really might have a really deeply embedded view about yourself. And if you do, then you might struggle to see that as negative because you might just think, yeah, well, that's my self-worth. That's the whole point. You actually believe this stuff. So actually, you have to ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this helping me? Is this building me up or breaking me down? It's a really good question. And then you can start to reframe those things. And people talk a lot about affirmations. And I think affirmations, mantras, all of that has its place. But what we have to be careful of is that when we get up in the morning and we tell ourselves that we love ourselves, if we don't believe it, what we're doing actually is lying to ourselves. Now, how are you supposed to build self-trust and then in turn self-worth if every day you just get up and lie to yourself? If you look in the mirror in the morning and all you see is a liar because you're saying words that you don't believe. You see, I think it's a lot of pressure. When someone's been practicing self-loathing for, say, 30 years, the idea that overnight or even over a week or a month or a year that they're just going to start to love themselves, well, that's a lot of pressure. That's quite unrealistic. That's quite a high expectation. Most people, they can't even really like themselves straight away. And I hear how sad that sounds, and I have empathy for it. I've been there and will maybe be there once again in my life. I don't know. But actually what I'm talking about is getting to know yourself. Because how many times do you just walk up to someone in the street and decide that you love them? You go out on a night out and you decide that you're in love with somebody. No, you might like somebody. You might go, oh, they're interesting, they're funny, or they're good looking, whatever it is that is your measure. And then you start to get to know them and then you start to get to like them. And it takes quite a long time before you build that love, whether it's platonic or romantic. So actually, what about getting to know yourself, not through the eyes of judgment, instead of going, oh, I'm stupid because I love this or I love that or this is sad or that's sad or whatever. None of that. Actually get to know yourself and accept yourself for who you are. We're all weird and wonderful, right? We've all got these little things about ourselves that we're kind of a little bit embarrassed about, but we do genuinely love those things that maybe we're really into comic books and we think it's really geeky. I'm a comic person, so, whatever. But whatever it is, you have to start accepting yourself for who you are and what you really genuinely like. You cannot keep denying yourself of who you are and the things that you enjoy about yourself and the things that you enjoy doing. Because if you do that, then you're not being you. And if you're not being you, how are you supposed to value yourself and realize that you're worth it? How? It's a good question. There's a couple of traps out there that are now part of the modern world. Just take a quick drink. There are a couple of traps out there that are really easy to fall into. And one of them, I'm going to start right at the top, social media. You see, social media is seen by many as a form of social currency. And we attach value to it. A bit like when you look at your bank balance and you see that you got loads of money in the bank, or you see that you got no money in the bank, it makes you feel a certain way. You internalize that. Oh, I'm a loser because I haven't got enough money, or look at me, I'm amazing because I'm rich. Whatever it is that's going on, it's the same with social media. Because you've got lots of followers, that you might think that you're amazing. You might think that you're better than other people. Or maybe you've only got 10, 20 followers and you decide that because of that and other people have got more than you, that means they're better than you. But it doesn't. It doesn't, because it's not real. It's not real. It's not who you are. You are not your social media account. So it's really, really important that you detach yourself from that you create boundaries around that. And I'm going to move on to boundaries in a little while. But it's just, like I say, those 4 stages of behavioral change. The first one is awareness. And then you've got accountability, then you've got acceptance, and then you've got action. And I'll be talking about that in another podcast. But the first one is awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. So by knowing that you might attach an unrealistic or unhelpful amount of value to your social media, then that gives you the option instantly. It gives you choice. It gives you the option to start becoming more boundaried around it, or start looking at it a little bit differently, or catching yourself when you're thinking or deciding certain things whilst you're scrolling on social media. And perhaps you're coming across someone else's social media, and when you look at them, you decide that because they're doing well, that means that you're not, and actually that they're brilliant and you're worthless. All of those thought processes, you have to catch them really early, and you have to start coming up with realistic ways of interpreting that information. For example, when you see somebody doing well on social media, that doesn't mean that you're a loser. It means that there's something in that you want. So then make it a goal. Instead of sending yourself that you're not good enough and they're better than you, why not go, hey, I didn't realize they're paddleboarding in the Maldives. I think I'd quite like to go to the Maldives one day. Perhaps I make that a goal. And I don't mean a goal for this summer. Perhaps it's a 10-year goal, whatever it is. If the Maldives are still there in 10 years, I keep hearing that they're disappearing. So, maybe there is a bit of a time constraint on that one. So yeah, that's social media. It's a real trap. It happens to me all the time. When I start to want to do things and I see other people doing things, it's very easy. If you're hungry or tired or you're having a bad day, to look at social media and start to tear yourself down. That's why I have a rule now that in the evening I leave my phone in the office and I don't check it, because otherwise I get pulled into it. It's addictive. It's made to be addictive. So you have to be very boundaried around those things. If you're in a room and you don't feel valued, you're not being listened to, you're being spoken to in a disrespectful tone, or people are just making you feel a certain way, that's not because you're not good enough. Actually, it's because you're in the wrong room. You're in the wrong room, man. You need to turn around and go, hey, sorry, you're in the wrong room. Where's the right room? I need to go find the right room. You see, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. See, the people that are best for you in your life, you shouldn't have to keep proving yourself to them. You shouldn't have to keep proving yourself to them by having the latest clothes, or driving the nicest cars, or having a high social media account, or having a really good looking partner, whatever it is that your friends are measuring themselves against. It's very easy to get pulled into it, but it is a game. And you know what? Sometimes you can choose not to play games. So if you find yourself in a certain room and you're not feeling valued, and that people are treating you a certain way, just realize this: it's not about you. You don't have to go and change yourself. You don't have to go and do anything to yourself. You're just in the wrong room. Somewhere there are people that are your people. Somewhere there are people that will value you. There might even be people in your life that value you already, and perhaps you're not noticing. Sometimes there's friends in your life that are really going out of their way, making a huge amount of effort for you, but you don't want their friendship. You don't value their friendship. You're looking over there and you want to be in that room. But when you're in that room, you're not being valued. So why not start looking around, open your eyes, become aware of the people that are already making an effort, and make effort with them. I'll tell you something I learned is that in my life, some of the people that have become my best friends in the world are people that I didn't like when I first met them. I thought they were they were weird, or I thought they were this, or I thought they were that. Only to find actually quite a lot of the time when something stirs up in you about somebody else, it's actually something in yourself that you're having trouble with, that you're struggling with. And actually, by leaning into those type of people, you start to not only like them, but you start to like those things about yourself. That's quite good. It means you're with the right person. It means you're hanging around with the right people. It means you're allowing the right type of people into your life, which I think is really special. People's behavior. People say a lot of stuff. They tell you who they are all the time. Oh, I'm this, I'm that, and I do this all the time, and I want you to believe that I'm like this type of person. But actually, what really makes a difference, what really gets people, what really helps you understand people even, is the things that they do. People talk a lot of trash, they talk a lot of crap about themselves, and they say stuff that may or may not be true, but actually very rarely do people not do who they are. They show you who they are through their actions. So watch what they do, listen to what they say, give them benefit in the doubt, but watch what they do. Watch how they treat you, watch how they treat people around them. One of my gauges always is how people treat people in restaurants. So the people that come up to our tables and start serving us and things like that, the way they talk to them, do they make eye contact? Do they start a conversation? Do they ask how they are? Or do they just not look at them and force a fork on them and say, this fork's dirty, go and sort it out? You know, how do they treat them? Because that's an interesting way to see who somebody is. I found that anyway. Because here's the thing, right? Effort is value. The amount of effort you put into something really does show how much you value it. So if you've got that friend that's always, when you WhatsApp them, they leave you unread, then maybe it's because they're busy. But if they're always doing it all the time, maybe it's because they don't value you. And I'm not saying that's exactly how it is, but it's a question to ask yourself. You know, what effort are people putting in to you? And what effort are they putting into you compared to the effort you're putting into them? You know, what's going on there? Let's have a really good look at it. Let's really have a good look at it and see what's going on there, because effort is value. The amount of effort you put into things dictates how much you value it. And then lastly, and I think this is probably the most important thing, because people say, Johnny, this is all good and well. This is all very interesting. Some of the stuff you said is very quote-worthy. But how do I do it? How do I decide how to change the way I see myself, to change my self-worth? Well, and this is really a kind of a belief of mine, but I think when I've worked with other people and I've worked on myself, I found this to be true through observation and through experience. And that is that I think that your core values are your self-worth. If you think about the two words there, self-worth, core values, value, worth. You see, our core values are the things that let us know what we value most in this world. They are the things that tell us what is for us and what isn't. The things that we say yes to, the things that we say no to, the things that we like, the things that we dislike. They're a moral compass in life. They are our core values. And I think that quite often people feel a little bit worthless when they're not being authentic, when they're not living up to their values. Our values direct our every decision. They decide who we have as a partner. They decide what jobs we do and what jobs we don't do. They decide our friendship circle. They decide where we feel comfortable in life, where we feel lit up, where we feel like we're getting the most out of life. That comes from our values as our bedrock, as our baseline, as our foundation. So if you want to understand your self-worth, then it's a very good idea to look at your values. And there are many ways that you can look at your values. You know, there's lists out there of different types of values. There is a set of questions that I often put out on the discovery sheet to clients, which I could talk about maybe on another podcast episode. But it's about really looking back over your past, looking at the things that you've done, looking at your behavior and asking yourself really interesting questions like, what's one of my greatest memories? And then extracting from that memory, maybe a value, maybe it's family, maybe it's laughter, maybe it's love, maybe it's connection, maybe it's empathy, maybe it's peace. Whatever it is, there's a value in there. And then you can create a little list of values. And what's really great is that once you really embody and know your values, then you know what's good for you and what isn't, which means you're starting to really channel your worth. You're starting to know, that you're worth enough And if somebody doesn't value you in the way in which you want to be valued, then it's not for you. Because the next part of that is once you create those core values, you then have to create the boundaries to protect yourself. You see, imagine your value is respect. One of them is respect, that you respect other people and you expect to be respected too. So you just put a little garden fence around respect, and then when somebody steps over that boundary line, you know then that there's something wrong and that you need to put that boundary back in place, and you need to protect yourself, and you need to show that you think that you're worth it. And that if somebody's disrespecting you and is stepping over your boundary line, that they need to be told and put back in place, or they're not someone that you want around you anymore. Which is tough. I'm not going to say that's an easy thing to do, because it isn't. But as I always say, practice removes the pressure of perfection. You have to practice what the behavior that you want to keep. That's very, very important, I think. So I think if I was trying to wrap this up in a nutshell, I'd say that the 3 biggest takeaways from today would be to identify the hidden ways that low self-worth might shape how you see yourself. Identify them, good and bad. So how is low self-worth shaping the way you see yourself? Or how is high self-worth? Just have a look at the way that you seem to be with other people, the way that you seem to see yourself, the things that you say to yourself in your head and out loud. Just start identifying those things. Make a little mental note, maybe make a little list in your phone or something like that. And then catch and challenge that inner critic and build a healthier narrative. So you got to catch it. Like I said, you identify them ways, but then when you do it, challenge it. Ask yourself, where's the evidence for this? This isn't true about me. And if it is true, maybe it doesn't mean what I think it means. Start to create more helpful narratives. Stop playing those narratives, those unhelpful narratives that keep putting you in a bad place. They're not working. They've got you where you are right now, and perhaps you don't like where you are right now. So if you want to change it, you need to change them. And you need to be really, really deliberate about it. Every single day, all of the time, relentlessly. Start casting a vote for yourself in life. Start doing the work for yourself and stop doing it so much for other people. And then lastly, simple daily shifts that can rebuild a fractured sense of self-worth over time. So it's not just about identifying them. It's not just about challenging them. It's also about putting new ones in place, the ones that you want instead. That's really, really important. Okay, I think I've rabbited on enough, don't you? This is the podcast where we talk a lot about being a human being, about our emotions and about our behavior. And I'm going to keep touching on these tricky topics. Maybe what I say is controversial, maybe it's not, don't know. But I certainly believe it to be true, and I've certainly seen it to be helpful. So thank you very much for listening to today's podcast episode. If you want to follow me on social media, I can be found at The Self-Development Coach. The podcast can be found at The Johnny Lawrence Podcast. That's on Instagram. The Self-Development Coach you should find on Facebook and LinkedIn and all those places too. Check out the new website. Like I said, I'm putting myself out there as a speaker. If you have any events, businesses, festivals, whatever it is, charities, whatever's going on and you think I could contribute and I could motivationally speak and inspire, then let me know. Come over to johnnylawrence.co.uk, send us an email and we can start chatting and maybe we can make that happen. And then finally, watch The Slavery of Addiction. People are just finding me now and getting to know me. If you want to know a bit about my history and a bit about how I became who I am today, whatever that means to you, whatever that means to me, then watch The Slavery of Addiction and all will be revealed. So thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your support. This has been a brave venture for me, which again, I plan to talk about on another podcast, all of the uncomfortable emotions and feelings that came up for me by quite egotistically naming my podcast after myself, which is what I told myself, which wasn't helpful. And I'll tell you why in another podcast episode. And I really appreciate your support. I mean that, genuinely. So thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week.